Now we go to our special segments of the show. The first one is Martin Brechbiel MMR, who's building a very old kit. And Martin, welcome. I'm glad the storm has passed you.
This old kit, part two. Well, it's old. It's roughly our vintage, give or take a little bit, depending on who you are in the room. We're going to look at this. We're going to do this Traincraft Products side door caboose. Traincraft Products made a lot of different caboose kits. Turns out I actually have at least one more on the shelf somewhere, and there's quite a few of them that keep showing up at shows. So there's a lot of variations on them. And I may have to get some more of them because this one, I had a lot of fun building this one, actually. Okay, here are your instructions. That's it. No more, no less. You know, you may not need very much more. It's basically put it together. But you have to think about it a little bit, obviously, because there's got to be a lot in between each of these lines that's not being written down. So you want to think about it and map it out in advance. So it's a little sparse. One thing that's nice is this drawing is very close to O scale. It's very, very close to the actual car. So it does provide a template as to where things go or where things should end up or how things should fit. So this is actually useful, particularly for this end, and you can make good use of that. And of course, down here, paint with gloss enamel, 2 coats. You know, dry letter to suit. Well, we're not going to do that probably, but we're probably not going to use gloss enamel either. Okay, the basic wooded parts in the box. We have 2 sides with windows. We have 2 sides without windows. Those sides are about 3/32 or a little thicker plywood, and the scribing is probably pressed into it as opposed to actually milled into it. So it's plywood, so you have to be aware of the fact that it's going to be a little tricky cutting it. It's going to get a little messy, and you can see even these are a little rough. There's a floor, and one of the 2 ends, there's another end block underneath that. They're poplar, so pretty hard wood at this point after 50, 60 years. Here's your roof. We've got 2 grooves, slots. That's where the cupola actually drops into place. So we know where the cupola goes. There's a hole for the vent for the bathroom. There's a hole for the stove. So we know our smoke jack goes there. This is the roof. It's just embossed cardstock. You cut out the middle part, fold, and glue in place. We're going to upgrade from that. Okay, there's our floor, roof, and ends. And there's some sheathing that go on these ends. The ends are not scribed or milled. You have actual it's not 32nd and it's not 1/16 inch thick scribe siding. It's whatever it is. And the first step is glue that on the end of the end blocks. And that's understating that a little bit because you want to glue them on the end blocks, flush at the top, centered left to right, leaving this whole section at the bottom, which is going to wrap over the end of the floor. Here's what the sides are mapped out to be. You have a 3 window section, a door casting, another side piece without any windows in it. So you can see there's some gaps here because this door casting actually does rest up on top of these side pieces. So you have to be careful about when you measure things out, and you can see that wasn't quite done all the time, particularly in the preparation of the kit. So you just put it together. These just get ends just get glued to the floor, and the roof gets glued on. And I say that real fast, and then I say, well, wait a minute, it doesn't line up right. And it turns out the floor is too long. If you go back here, you can see 3 hole side with windows. Here's the door, but there's about a 1/16 of an inch and another 1/16 of an inch, or so thereabouts, which, well, it's the same size as the floor. So when this gets set up on top, taking those gaps out, that floor is too long. And when you try to glue it together, you find out, oops, it's too long. So test fitting things in advance, rubber bands, always useful to try and make sure you know where you're going. So there's that hole. So that's about how much has to come off. But it has to come off the floor. Take the floor back, scribe the lines off it, cut it off. I ran it through the bandsaw and didn't think too much about it. This is where the floor, the end block goes. That's the piece you're cutting off. So, make sure you cut on the right line. You can always cut it shorter, but you can't cut it longer. Okay, you got the door, we got the roof, the floor, the two ends glued in place. I added some scrap wood for bracing into the corners. It's probably not needed, but I do it anyhow just for good measure. It's not coming apart after it's done. Okay, so we glue the 3 window section into place. I have taken the liberty of pre-painting the castings. And you can see it's got it up on top here, no gap. And now we have to fit this piece right in here. It's just a shade long. You can also see sneaking over here a piece of sheet lead that I added. There's a little piece of sheet lead here and over here just to give this car a little bit of extra weight. So you have to sand this to fit between that end scribe section and under the door. And once you have it, glue it all in place. Don't let it move. Put some weights on it. Don't worry about it. And then flip it over and do the other side. So repeat process on the other side. Make sure, yeah, the 3 window section goes with the 3 window section. It's out. They're both at the same end of the car. So don't get them backwards. It's going to be a awkwardly rotating car otherwise. Okay. Once we have that together, well, we've got that nasty end grain thing going on here. And the kit doesn't worry about that. I worry about it because I don't like the way it looks and it doesn't take paint and it's ugly. So a piece of, I think that was 4 by stock or 3-inch by stock. I just glue it on there with some goo and some CA, cut it to fit, match the contour of the roof, add an end beam that aligns flush top to bottom. And we'll do a quick fast forward. You can see where I've already put the air line in with the air hose in a bracket. We'll come back to that a little bit. So instructions using that drawing, that's where the bolsters go. It's actually very, very close to the size of it now. A little platform for the K-brake. This is a piece of milled wood. Drilling some holes through here, I think, I don't know, 1/8-inch drill, hand drill. Drill this straight in, turn it at an angle, and keep drilling, pop it out the other side. Still have to bend this 33 thousandths wire at an S curve and not break your milled wood. So it's easier said than done. I've broken a few in the past. If you break it, you just put some glue on it, put it back together, not worry about it. Okay, so we have our platform for our K-brake, and the end of the K-brake is drilled out to accept some linkage plumbing. So, yeah, you don't want to forget about drilling that out. Well, let's put it this way. You don't want to remember to drill it out after you've glued it in place. It's a lot harder to do once it's glued in place. It's easier to just break it off the base and re-glue it. So, some, oh gosh, 25 thousandths wire, some Grant line turnbuckles cut in half, the ends cut off. Looks like this is a actually Berkshire Valley parts. So I actually splurged and used my scarce Berkshire Valley parts. Started building the K-brakes, and this is the first lever put in place. Then we get the second lever in, and I made some hangers from 15 thousandths by 42 thousandths brass. Just drop them in place and hold everything down together. This one's got a little 90-degree twist in it to glue to the inside of the channel. Well, we had a toolbox. That came with a metal casting with a wood block behind it. Rather than just leave a wood block, I skinned that block with 10,000 styrene. That way it takes paint better and more uniformly, and it just looks a lot better. The air hoses, these are precision scale parts. They don't come with a kit. And these are soldered onto, into 3/64 brass tubing. There's a hole drilled in this 1/8-inch angle that's cut off, it slides right through, and that other end of that 3/64 tubing slides right over this 33 thousandths brass wire. So it's all one rigid unit now. So it's not going to go anywhere. Okay, no, we're not going to use scribe cardstock. I mean, that was a vintage thing to do once upon a time, but it's time has come and gone in my shop. I don't do these things very often anymore. What it does serve as, though, is a very good template as to where your roof supports go, the roof walk supports, everything is mapped out for you. So don't throw it away. It's actually useful. Okay, there was a paper envelope that said cupola kit on it. This is what's in the cupola kit envelope. You get 2 short pieces, 2 long pieces. So these are the ends, these are the sides. There's a piece of wood, milled all the way around, recessed, a little dado all the way around. So it drops in. A lot of flash on this plastic. That takes some time to clean off. I just took my time and carved it out with the scalpel, with a number 11 scalpel blade. The nasty end grain just gets fixed with some 1x stock, and then just sand that down to the contour of the roof. So we get it together. It goes together fairly well. It's actually pretty straight, and it even fits probably down in the grooves on that roof. So we covered up the end grain. I put a piece of scribe 32nd thick scribe siding on the top to give it a roof over the plain wood block. And you test fit it in that roof, and what do you know? They got it right. That's a relief. I mean, sometimes, you're building a kit and you get to a point and you try to put 2 major pieces together, and it just doesn't go. And then you sit there carving holes and grinding things and cutting things. This slid right into place beautifully. It's very reassuring, makes you feel like, this could possibly be built successfully if you're not careful, or if you are careful. Okay, more fiddly bits, more envelopes, all kinds of stuff. We got 6 ladders. 4, 6 ladders. 2 on each end, 2 on each side, and 2 on the other side. 3 brake platforms. That's not a mistake. You actually need all 3 of them. The roof corners for the cupola roof, stirrup steps, some grab irons, the vent, nice brass turned piece, a rather sad brake wheel, smoke jack, which we'll actually use, but I'll drill that out through here on my little drill press, get that done. Roof walk supports, and these are the grabs for around the doors, on those side doors, and those are going to go away because they're really big. That's like 36 thousandths brass wire, which is huge. And we're going to add some parts. Well, we're going to add a better brake wheel. It just looks nicer. We need a stirrup for the brake system, so we can tie that brake shaft into the K-brake system underneath. And we're going to, just for fun, add some holding pockets to make the ends look a little more interesting and not quite so naked and empty. And now that I've shown you all the fiddly bits, after getting the basic body put together and glued up and solid, I'm going to stop here until next time, and we'll do the roof, install the fiddly bits, and if I'm lucky and weather works out, I'll be back, and I might even have this car done next week and then I have to think about what I'm doing the following week, which would probably be the biggest problem I've faced all year.